So we've hit a point in the semester and in the class where it's going to be a good idea to review each of your pages and try to complete all the content and really pull the site together. We're going to be doing that using the textbook and using the portfolio project assignments. You can really use those more as a checklist than anything, but they can help you to pull your content together. What I want to show you before you start is in Chapter 2's portfolio project exercise, one of the first things you're told to do is to add some metadata to each of your pages. Now, something you're going to want to do is to have different keywords and a different description on each page. And in order to do that, you could do it one of two ways. You could either take the meta tag information, and since we've set our templates up to where we've got our head to title and then our head from title, you could easily just put it just before the title tag, and that would be fine. But I wanted to take the opportunity to show you a way that you could use some more basic PHP if you wanted to extend what you're using PHP for on this site. To do that, I'm going to show you the index file of a web page that I've built more recently. And this is something that I tend to do pretty much every time I'm starting out with some HTML. If I start with a template, I want to break it up into PHP first to make it easier. A lot of times you buy these templates and they're all HTML. Now, if you get a template and you decide you want to use it, but you want to break it up and simplify the code, one of the first things you'll probably want to do is put a lot of the redundant code into includes that you can use PHP to pull into your pages. In this case, you can see that I've actually got this set up kind of similar to how we have the template set up. You'll notice I have an include statement that says to include headcode.php. Now the difference is here I didn't do it up to the title in one include and then everything after the title in another. But you'll notice I did actually leave a closing head tag on each of my pages. The reason for that is that I wanted to be able to use one include file that had all of the code for my header in it. But I want to leave the closing head tag here in case I need to put something special in for one page that I'm not going to use on every other page. For instance, that Slimbox feature that we're using, if you're only using that on one page, you don't really want to call it and call that jQuery or that JavaScript on every page because it slows down your website. So in this case, you can actually see that there is a slideshow script that's being called here, and there's a little bit of custom script going on, and that's why I have the head tag within each page. And everything else up to that closing head tag can be put in an include, and then I can leverage all of the redundant code in the head the same way as that we're doing now, but with one file instead of two. So again, to be clear, what's going on is that this home page has a slideshow. It's the only page on the website that uses that slideshow. And so I've left my closing head tag here so that I can put in scripts or link to style sheets or put in any other code that needs to go in the header that's specific to one page without having to call it on every page. Now in this case, all of my head code is in a file called headcode.php. And we can take a look at that and see that I've got my doc type declaration, I've got some statements that are conditional for IE so that I can have some conditional styles for Internet Explorer, which we'll learn about in a later chapter or a later module. And you can also see I've got a little bit of PHP here. For instance, in title, and there's this PHP code that says PHP echo, and this is a variable. Variables in PHP start with a $sign. So you see this $sign in the word page title. All I'm doing is passing a variable into this section of code using this PHP. And the variable lives, in this case, within the page itself. So at the top of the page, I've declared a variable called page title. And in it, I've set an equal sign, and because I want text in there, it's a string, so I've wrapped it in quotes. And I've put in what I want to be the page title for this specific web page. Now, what's going to happen is when this include file is loaded in, it's going to get up to a point where the code's being read, and it's going to see PHP echo this variable page title, and it's going to look for that variable. Now the variable should be declared before this is called, which is why it's important that this be above it. So you'll notice I've declared all my variables here for all of my metadata, and then I've brought in my include file. But it's a pretty simple concept once you understand what's going on. So this is a variable that contains all the text for this page title, and then it's being pulled in through that include. And you'll notice here I've got a meta tag for description, same thing, echo page description. And then another meta tag for keywords, echo page keys. You can call these variables anything you want. The important thing is that they match in the section of the code where you've declared them and then the section of the code where you use them. And all that echo means in PHP is print. It just means pull in that information basically. So when it's saying echo page description, what we would see in the HTML code instead was that this page description text was pulled into the page. The way you can tell that it's working is you create it and then you preview it in a browser, and when you view the source code you'll see HTML instead of all this PHP going on. So if you want to use this for your pages, I don't think it would be a bad idea. You could also then simplify your template if you wanted to not have the title code on each page. You know, you could pull all of your head code into a single include. Just make sure you leave the closing head tag in each of your pages so that if you have any kind of custom things you want to add to the head of your page, you can do that without having to call it on every single page. So anyway, again, if PHP is a little bit too much for you and you just want to add in your meta tags, I'd probably add them in before the title, but you could add them in really before or after the title, and you don't have to disrupt anything to do with your PHP setup right now. But if you've enjoyed using PHP, another good snippet to write might be to write a snippet that does all of this but leaves, you know, each of these blank so that you can fill those in as you choose, and that then pulls in a standard include. You could start naming all of your head code includes the same thing, to where you could use the snippet on multiple sites and you could pull in all the information that you needed. And the only thing that I do is on my different pages I change what the keywords are within this variable, and I change what the description is within this variable, and then I'll change the page title within each variable as well. So hopefully this is helpful to you. If you want to use it for yourself, in the top of your template page here, the way that you would do that would probably be to get rid of the opening and closing statements here and get rid of this extra include. And then you'd take your title and you would cut it out and you would move it to your include, and then you would combine the contents of both your head to title and then head from title into one, and we'd probably just rename that something like head code. It's all up to you though. You can choose how you want to do it. You'll notice too that I'm actually using PHP includes instead of text includes. You can include nearly any file that you want as long as it's legible on the web. So in using a PHP include, I can actually see my code highlighting instead of a text where it doesn't highlight that way. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful to you. If you want to use that, feel free, but again, if you're not sure that you should, then just stay in your template, keep it as it is, and just add your meta information in somewhere around the title. Just make sure you're clear of these PHP tags. Hopefully this helps you out though. Enjoy building the rest of your website.